Business Radio.
It's the morning drive here at Mira Business FM with me, Tim Elliott, and don't forget you can join us on YouTube, online. Mirabusiness.fm is the website. You can contact us. Very important this, because the topic next, I have a feeling, will arouse some interest. Let's put it that way. Mira Business FM, we're talking consumer protection next. So to get in touch with us, info@mira.fm is the email address, or whatsapp.mira.fm to contact us over WhatsApp. 522 789 567 is the number, with a +971 in the front. So it's welcome back to Raymond Kisswany, who is a partner at Davidson Co. Nice to see you, Raymond.
Thanks very much. I'm here for the three-peat.
You are protecting your dirhams, what every UAE consumer needs to know right now, but actually we titled this in 2026, but this affects us at this moment in time, a topic that affects shoppers, diners, tenants, online customers across the Emirates, consumer protection. And this is the whole gamut, actually. This is misleading advertising, refund rights, this is e-commerce disputes. So understanding the rules can save you money and stress. So we have specific rights and responsibilities that are protected by law here in the Emirates. Let's start with consumer rights, Raymond. And I wonder if you can encapsulate in a reasonably concise sentence or paragraph what rights are granted to consumers in the UAE.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those. It's rare to have a law that literally affects every single human being, because we're all consumers in one way or another. And there's the other side, that you are a business providing that good. So this literally covers everybody, whether you're buying a coffee or signing a gym contract, or doing something online. The UAE Consumer Protection Law, or if you're, it's the federal law number 15 of 2020. So it's been around for just over 5 years. Right. It's really built, if I can put it into one sentence, it's built around the idea of you should get what you pay for, and you should not be misled in the process.
Okay.
If we keep that in mind, that's really kind of the hallmark. The core rights that apply to everybody in the UAE, whether you're an Emirati, whether you're an expat resident or tourist, is right to clear information. So you have to be given the accurate details about price, description, ingredients, warranty terms, risks, etc. There shouldn't be any surprises as a consumer. The right to having a safe product and quality service. So anything sold in the UAE has to be approved by safety standards. And if it's unsafe, if it's expired, or if it's defective, then there's liability. And a right to refund or replacement if the goods are defective. So this is not optional. A retailer, a seller has to refund. They can't hide behind kind of a no returns policy if the goods are defective. And then we have some additional things like right to privacy and protection. You can't misuse personal data that's collected during a purchase, especially obviously with more and more things happening online. And effectively the right to not be misled. So advertising has to be honest. There can't be bait and switch. There can't be exaggerated claims. Can't be deceptive pricing. So these rights apply whether you're buying something in a store, online, through an app. They apply to everybody, like I said, whether you're a national, expat, or a tourist. And consumer rights are enforceable. So it's quite an important topic, and it literally affects everybody, like I said.
Well, that's what's interesting about it, because this is a pretty all-encompassing law in lots of ways. But it's we'll get to some of the questions in a moment, because as with all laws, not everybody respects them, and that's what we'll come to as well. But in terms of jurisdiction, this is a regulation that covers all 7 Emirates.
Correct.
So it's a federal law.
Exactly. Yeah.
Doesn't apply outside of the UAE, of course, as well. So this is very strictly in the Emirates. Just to make that clear from the outset. Lots of questions, actually. In fact, we're bombarded by questions. You'll
Already.
like this already. But it's something that always generates attention, I think. If a shop displays a sign that says no refund or exchange, is that actually legal in the UAE if the product that I bought is faulty in some way or has broken due to no, fault of mine?
Yeah. So if the good that you've purchased is defective, the law overrides any sort of store policy or terms and conditions that the store has. So they can't hide behind no no returns sign.
Right.
They have to return it. And they also, and an additional thing that a lot of people don't really realize is if the product is defective, a store can't force you to have store credit or a gift card. It has to be a refund in the same form as you've purchased it. So if you purchase it through cash, they have to refund it in cash. If you purchased it through your credit card, they have to reimburse it to the original payment method.
That's interesting. I didn't know that. Okay.
But that only
that's worth keeping
applies
in question.
if the good is defective.
Right.
If you've just changed your mind, then the store policy does exist.
Okay. So if I bought a tennis racket and it snapped in half on the way home and I took it back, they'd have to refund me.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Why I'm buying a tennis racket, I'm not sure. But the first thing I could come up with. Here's the next one. If I buy an appliance like a phone or a refrigerator and it breaks within a few weeks, what is my legal right? A repair, a replacement, or a refund?
You do have rights. Warranties are mandatory in the UAE.
Right.
And so you do, if you purchase, especially electronics or appliances, and either during the warranty period they have to be respected, and we can get into the details about warranties as well. So what they have to be clear, they have to have specific durations. So if either your good is consistently breaking down, then you would be entitled to a full refund. If it is obviously breaking down in normal fashion, you'd be covered under the warranty to have it fixed under those warranty terms.
Okay, we'll come back to warranties in a little while, but there's so many questions here. I want to get to some of these. The warranty thing is interesting. If I buy a product based on a sale promotion or advertisement that turns out to be misleading, features being exaggerated, that kind of thing, what can I do about false advertising? What should I do about false advertising?
Yeah, so false advertising is a big one, and not only can consumers make complaints, but actually the relevant authority, depending on which emirate you're in or what type of source, for example, the DED, does do spot checks on stores and online. And there can be significant penalties that are associated with misleading ads. Things like, something starting from X price, but there's never that product in stock. Or a typical one that you see is, signs for 70% off, but the prices were inflated by 100% yesterday.
I was going to say that. You see that a lot with, like clothes shops and stuff.
Yeah. So if you can kind of see those patterns, and it's not only consumers that can make the complaint, but there are sort of preventative measures that are taken by the relevant authorities that go and actually do these spot checks.
Okay. All right. So
and the penalties can be quite significant.
When you say significant, how significant?
Well, I mean, they range depending on the type of offense, but fines can be anywhere from 5,000 dirhams all the way up to 2 million dirhams. And there are, obviously, it gets worse with repeat offenders. You can have your trade license blocked, you can have your businesses closed down, and there are some substantial effects that can happen. And it can lead into certain criminal liability, especially around safety standards.
Okay. I mean, the thing is, it's not as though you don't hear about these things. There are, I can think of a few examples that have been reported in local media, I guess, in the last year or so. It's not like you don't hear of these things. These fines do apply. Is
Absolutely,
what I'm saying.
absolutely, and I mean, just to kind of take the absolute worst case uh, example in terms of criminal liability, I handled a case a number of years ago where a certain repair shop was using car tires that were not GCC spec. They were actually European spec, which can be extremely dangerous because obviously our weather is very, very different than Europe, and
Yeah,
so those can lead to blowouts of those tires, which is
yeah.
obviously a huge safety issue. Not only were there significant fines that were levied, um, and there were civil liabilities that were attached. The
Mm.
business was closed down, but there was also criminal liability.
Okay, right. I'm incredibly dangerous. Here's another question for you. If I've lost the original receipt, can I still claim my rights or a warranty if I have other proof, like a bank statement or a photo of the bill?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need the actual physical original receipt as long as you can evidence, obviously, that you have made the purchase. Um, that you do need some form of obviously evidence
Yeah.
that shows that you've made the purchase. You have the warranty. You have the factors. It's kind of hard these days to kind of not have some form of evidence. Um,
It is. I mean,
yeah.
it was drummed into me as a kid. My mother would, not that she ever bought any big ticket items, but if my mother and father ever did, it would be, I do probably still got the receipts now, if I'm completely honest. There are files all over their house. But it was drummed in that you keep the receipt because you need that. But now you go to the supermarket now and it's, would you like, do you need a receipt? No. Would you like me to email it to you? And I'll
Exactly.
get home and it's been emailed.
Yeah.
So I suppose that's evidence enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Even if if you made that purchase and you took a photo of your receipt and then you threw it out, which is what I often do,
Sure.
um, that would be good enough evidence.
All right, then. So let's get back to these questions. There's so many of these that have come in for you. If a service I paid for, like car maintenance or home cleaning, was done poorly or caused damage, what are my legal options to get the issue fixed or get compensation?
Yeah, so this is often a misunderstanding that we have about consumer protection. We often think about it about purchasing physical goods, items,
Yeah.
but it applies to service as well. So if you are getting a service, such as a home cleaning, um, for example, any contract that you've signed, for example, like a gym contract or a subscription of some sorts, all of those are services that are being provided, and they are covered under the consumer protection law. So we would treat that almost as a defective good. If you've paid for a home cleaning, but you haven't received the quality that was promised to you,
Mm.
then you are entitled to either a replacement, i.e., to them to fix the issue that's happened, or a refund. Um, and obviously, if during the process they've caused any damage, then obviously you have a right to have that compensation. Now, there are effective dispute resolution mechanisms if the store or the online provider is not handling it properly. In Dubai, there is a consumer protection app through the DED that you can file complaints against any shop, depending on which emirate you're in, and depending on the business. So if it is a typical business within Dubai, it's the consumer protection app that you file complaints against them. And if it's a telecoms related, it's a TRA. If it's a financial service or a bank, it's a central bank that you file those complaints with. Personally, since this law has come into effect, I've had to maybe do, just in my own personal life, I've done it about 3 times where I filed a complaint through the consumer protection app in Dubai, and it's literally been dealt with within a matter of days.
That's impressive. What, I mean, could you go into any detail? What kinds of
Well,
things?
I mean, one was just that I forget. One was one of those. water container people,
All right.
and one of the we had a couple of bottles that weren't being refilled, um, and they weren't refunding our money. So I ended up doing a complaint, and it was literally resolved very quickly. There was another one, I think, where it was an item of clothing that we had purchased that was ripped, and we were again being told about store credit rather than a full refund. So that was resolved as well.
Do you say to them, do you ever feel like saying, do you know who I am? Do you know I'm a lawyer?
No, I typically don't do that. My mother, I think, uses my son's a lawyer about every other
Love
day.
it. Brilliant. And I bet it works as well. Um, what about telemarketing? That's what I wanted to ask you, because this is something that, I don't know, I've had the strangest bunch of messages over this weekend. I've had to block somebody sending me bizarre pictures. But telemarketing is the thing I think that particularly gets under the skin, doesn't it? For some reason, I'm under the impression that cold calling is not permitted or is against the law, and I'm not even sure if that's right. How does it work?
Yeah, it's a very tricky area, and it's often, if you remember that kind of arcade game, the whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's often that, and
It is that.
unfortunately, I think the problem that I think us as consumers have and as regulators have is that we have to be right every single time, whereas a scammer or a telemarketer or et cetera just has to be right once. Um, there is in the UAE, you can go online and put your number in and be placed on a do not call list.
Okay.
And that would prevent all those constant ads that you get via SMS and cold calling. However, I have done this, and I don't receive any more calls from UAE numbers, but I'm sure that somebody somehow is using either a VPN or something, because I'm getting calls and they're coming either from US based numbers, European based numbers. So it is continuing to happen. There is enforcement against it. It's not supposed to happen, but unfortunately, like I said, it's a bit of a game of whack-a-mole.
It really is. Now, I had one this weekend, actually. My name is Lieutenant Colonel so-and-so, and I'm calling from Dubai Police, and I'm at Dubai Police Station.
Yeah.
You have to come and... I couldn't really understand what the guy was saying, and you have to come and do something. And I said, you're not really from Dubai Police Station. I can tell. He's like, no, you must
That's more
come.
of a scammer than a telemarketer, but yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah. And I just kind of figured... And this was on, I think it was Google Meet. He was trying, yeah, I think it was. And then I thought, no, I'm just going to block you, leave me alone. But the thing is
Yeah.
with this, there's nothing you do about the international stuff coming in. That sort of thing rarely happens in the UAE. But there are still the stories of the things like the Central Bank of the UAE scam. I'm from the central bank. You have to give me your details of your debit card and all of this. And those generally come from, a weird mobile number. But generally, you would recognize it as a UAE mobile number. And I wonder what we do about that kind of thing. Because, it's a numbers game, isn't it? At some point, somebody's going to hand over some details, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's. I mean, those kind of scammers are, I think, they're preying on sort of a machine gun approach. If they shoot enough of those phone calls, they only have to be right once, and unfortunately, we have to be right every single time.
Yeah.
So, there's the obvious things of no bank, no central bank, no police is going to call you and ask you for any of those details. So anything that you get like that, even if you're getting it from a bank that you would use, you can simply hang up and call the number that's on the back of your card and double check that before you start doing any of these kind of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, the rule of thumb is don't give any sort of personal details over the phone to anybody, no matter what they're claiming.
No, and if somebody calls you and says, I'm Lieutenant Colonel so-and-so from Dubai
I guarantee
Police,
you they're not going to be calling you.
No, they're really not going to be calling you. You're not, though, are you? Is the answer. What about online purchases? Because, online shopping it's everywhere. We all do it. It's kind of changed the landscape of our retail habits, but it's also changed the landscape of consumer protection, I suppose, in some ways, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's really that's kind of changed the entire method, and obviously, with each day that goes by, we are doing more and more things online. Me specifically, I would say, but with online shopping, it is transformed consumer behavior. It has transformed consumer protection laws, but it's also obviously introduced a lot of new risks. Um, the the few things that we have to understand is that an online seller has to follow the exact same law as a physical store. So
Okay.
it doesn't the law doesn't distinguish between online or in store. You're both bound by the same law, so that's really important for businesses to have. A buyer has to receive the same clear information before they check out. There can't be any hidden fees or so the prices have to be transparent. The ads have to be transparent. Um, and one of the effects is obviously with delivery. Delivery timelines have to be honored, and digital receipts, digital warranties are just as valid as quote unquote paper ones,
Mm.
and they have to be provided as well. You can't sort of operate as a online store without issuing digital receipts. Um, One of the big issues that I think online shopping has brought is the concept of third-party sellers on marketplaces. So, for example, Amazon, you're on the Amazon marketplace or you're on Desert Cart marketplace,
Yep.
and the person that's actually the seller is a third party.
Yeah.
So the way that UAE law operates is that the platform is responsible to ensure that the marketplace sellers are complying with consumer protection laws. So whether you're buying from a UAE physical store, an online store, or a global marketplace such as an Amazon, you have the exact same rights.
Okay. I mean, generally, the bigger the platform, the better it is. I don't know. I use Amazon. My wife always accuses me of being addicted to Amazon.
Oh,
And
same
she'll
here.
say, "Yeah,
I think that there's a delivery pretty much every single day in my house.
well, my wife's got to this point where it's like, ding dong, I asked for something, ding dong, the man's there at the door with, and I'm not, and of course I get upset, and then that argument ensues. That's a different matter. The big ones are generally pretty good about that. But what do you do if an online seller with a presence in the UAE refuses to comply with, I don't know, a refund or compensate you in some way, whatever it is? Um, then it's straight to the DD, or there's a helpline number as well, I
Yeah,
believe.
the dispute resolution mechanism again is really the same whether you're making a purchase from a physical in store as you would from an online shop as you would from a marketplace. Um, you make all attempts obviously to resolve it with the store, whichever it is. I would say obviously staying calm and documenting everything is crucial.
Yep.
Collect evidence such as your photos, videos, receipts, any messages that you've exchanged with the store um, that show the defect or the misrepresentation, along with all the receipts that you have. Um, if you haven't already, if it's a physical store, especially, try to have the business put their refusal in writing. Um, as a form of evidence.
Okay.
Try to escalate it to the management within the store or within the online message that you're having
Mm.
to see if there's a resolution that way. And then obviously your last line of defense is depending on what type of store it is or which emirate you're in. So if you're in Dubai, it's a consumer protection division. In Abu Dhabi, it's the ADDED, I believe. And again, if it's a telecoms related matter, it's a TRA. Banking, it's the central bank, and you can go through those. Like I said, I mean, in my personal experience, I've dealt with the consumer protection app for Dubai, and on behalf of clients, I've dealt with the TRA and the central bank, and it's all been very, very smoothly and very swiftly resolved.
Okay. And if you got something through, one of the larger platforms and the goods came from, I don't know, Europe or the US, it's the local entity that is responsible for those goods.
Yeah, so we have, the example of Amazon, for example, you have Amazon UAE. If that product has come from the UK, so from Amazon UK, but you've made that purchase through Amazon UAE,
Right.
then you have the exact same rights there. The only way that doesn't really apply with the law is if you've made a direct purchase from abroad and it has been shipped to the UAE because you've made that purchase from a European seller, for example.
Sure. So that's a buyer
Yeah.
beware kind of situation. This goes back to the telemarketing question that I asked you. Does UAE law protect my personal data, like my phone number, my email address, etc., that I give a retailer? And are they allowed to use it for marketing calls and spam? They're probably not allowed to spam you, really, but for marketing purposes.
Yeah, so a lot of people are actually surprised that, and we can almost do an entire segment on data privacy because, again,
That's a few segments.
yeah, it's a
for
few
sure.
because there's actually different laws that apply in whether you're mainland, whether you're GIFC, ADGM. These each have their own different data protection laws that apply to them.
Okay.
Just because you remember from previous discussions, we've talked about the unique kind of legal jurisdiction that the UAE is because it's a united federation. There's free zones, there's DIFC and ADGM, which are sort of unique outliers. And one of the surprising factors is actually, if you've heard of GDPR or the privacy protections in the US, the UAE has very robust data privacy protection, and that is also encapsulated within the consumer protection law.
Right.
That if you've provided your personal details to an online store, or even in a physical store, if you've given your mobile number, for example, those have to be protected.
Okay. Do you do what I do when you're in a store and they're like, "What's your mobile number?" And my first thing is always, "Why?
Yeah, yeah. I have a
Why do you
supermarket
need that?"
very near me that pretty much every single time that I'm purchasing anything, it's usually like just a quart of milk. It's what's my mobile number, and they've got a draw for some lucky. Uh,
Yeah.
you can always give a. I mean, this is perhaps not the right thing, but you can always give just a random number if you wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, but
That's not the legal answer, but
All right then. I couldn't possibly comment. What else? Look, there's so many questions I've got for you here. Online purchase. Okay. What are the most common complaints that consumers file in the UAE that you've dealt with or that you're aware of when it comes to retail or e-commerce?
yeah, I mean, the usual ones, I think, and there is, I believe, online documentation from the various consumer protection on what they face mostly. A lot of it is obviously defective goods that aren't the refund or replacement hasn't been honored. So that's a typical um, um, one that has. And a lot of it also falls under warranty issues. Because one of the things that, for example, with warranties are mandatory on all durable goods. So the consumer protection law has that any product that is expected to last, so for example, electronics, appliances, vehicles, even furniture, that has to come with a warranty. And the warranty has to specifically state the duration of the warranty, what it covers, what it doesn't cover, and what the after-sale obligations are of the supplier. And the supplier has to do all repairs or replacements within a reasonable amount of time. And if the repairs keep occurring, so if it is a consistent issue that you are having, then you can demand a refund or a replacement with a new product.
Okay. So warranties are mandatory.
Yeah.
What should you know about warranty? I mean, warranties, I guess they depend on manufacturers, they depend on establishments, but it seems to be generally that you buy a laptop, you get a 12-month warranty. There's maybe the possibility of an extended warranty that you may have to pay for. But what do we need to know about warranties in terms of, I guess, the term, first of all, but also enforcement?
Yeah, so it's a bit like I was basically saying is warranties are mandatory. They have to be provided on all durable goods. So the example of a laptop, and they usually will only cover sort of manufacturing defects. So it's not a I dropped my laptop and it broke. It's a I'm operating it in the normal fashion, but it is defective. It keeps on shutting down or overheating, etc. So that is a clear manufacturer defect
Yeah.
that has to be either replaced, and if the problem continues to persist, then you can have a refund. And again, at the outset, your warranty has to be very clear as to what it covers and what it does not cover, and how long that warranty is.
Because there are warranties now, aren't there? I'm thinking of mobile phones, for example, that and these are additional warranties. You'd have to pay something for this, I think, but that would allow for, I don't know, the smashing of a screen on your
Yeah.
mobile phone, for example. So, that's something, but that's generally like a bolt-on, isn't it?
Exactly. That's the kind of the added
Yeah.
one that you can get, but what has to come without cost is the initial warranty, typically lasting for about a year. But it also depends on the type of product that you're buying.
Okay. If I agree to a quote or estimate for a service, like a car repair or home renovation, can the company legally charge a significantly higher final price without getting my prior approval?
Yeah.
That's
So
the question.
the key point of that question is the prior approval,
Yeah.
because that would fall under effectively kind of false pricing.
Okay.
So you need to understand the law guarantees that you have to know what the pricing is before it is demanded of you effectively. So just like how you need to know that this water bottle costs X amount before you make the purchase, the exact same thing would happen with a service contract um, for a repair job. If you've been quoted one amount, but then there's going to be additionals, um, uh, they would have to let you know about that before they start commencing work and they charge you.
Okay. Final of the questions, for the moment, and I'm going to go back to my kind of list in a second. I feel like I'm jumping all over the place, but the stuff comes in at different times. If a technician, for example, air conditioning maintenance technician, causes accidental damage to my property while providing the service that I've enlisted them for, whose insurance or whose liability is responsible for the cost of repair to this, accidental damage?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a tricky one. It's sort of within consumer protection law, but also dips into sort of third party insurance liability. Um, if if there is damage that is caused while you are having a service provided, the business insurance that is covering that business should be able to cover the repairs that need to get done to it.
Hmm.
Um, it, it it's unlikely that your homeowner's insurance or your rental insurance is going to cover that, um, depending on the policy that you have. So that's more of a borderline issue that you'd have to look into. But typically, the business insurance that the business has while they are operating would be able to cover that.
I just thought of something there, and this is not related to consumer protection, but this is the AC maintenance guy, because I've had AC maintenance guys where I live in reasonably recently. But what if I was, for example, in some way they injured themselves on my property, that where I live, I don't know, I'd mopped the floor and they slipped and fell. How does workman's compensation work for guys working remote from their office, traveling to my location? How does that work in that
Well, so
instance?
I mean that kind of dips into insurance policies, and obviously the business insurance that we would have as a law firm or as a radio station would be very different than a business insurance that covers AC maintenance, because we understand what the risks are. So insurance generally is understanding what the risks that are
Mm.
being conducted. So it's unlikely that I am going to injure myself um, doing an AC repair because I'm a lawyer. Whereas the AC maintenance person it's a bit more of that kind of encapsulates within their their business insurance that it would
So it
cover
would come under their insurance rather,
medical.
because I
Yeah,
know if when you set up, when you have an office, you need to have some kind of workman's compensation in
yeah,
place, and obviously,
yeah.
that covers employees. I'm just wondering. So, note to self: don't mop the floor before AC man comes around. That's probably the way to do it. Let's talk a little bit about filing formal complaints. You said you've done it yourself, and the channel has been pretty effective, pretty speedy as well. But just could you run through just finally, what you need to do if you're not happy with something that you've bought and you're not getting the answers from the vendor, the dealer, whatever it is that you want? How would you put forward a formal complaint?
Yeah, so the easiest examples are for anything that you purchase in Dubai, be it in store, online. There is the Consumer Protection division
Hmm.
has a mobile app. They have a website, and they also have a toll-free number that you can call on.
Right.
And you will basically just need the basic information of having a proof of purchase, i.e., a receipt, what the issue is. So if it's a defective item, um, those photos or videos showing the defect, and you have to have gone to the store or the online store and tried to have a resolution, and there's been some form of refusal for them to deal with it. Um, that information will be collected. You'd be given a reference number. You'd be contacted to get your side of the story. They'll contact the business, explain the issue, and then they will try to form a resolution of some sorts.
Okay, and that mobile, I'm just looking through. I made some notes yesterday. Consumer Protection Department. This is via the Ministry of Economy or through Dubai Department of Economy and Tourism. And
Yeah,
then there is, as you said, there's the toll-free number, which is 800 1222. You can also do it through an app on your phone
exactly.
as
Yeah.
well, which is, I mean, I knew there would be an app. Why am I even questioning that, I guess? What's also interesting to know is the level of penalties. You referred to this earlier on, but I didn't realise it could be as high as a couple of million dirhams, uh, depending on the violation, of
Yeah,
course.
exactly. So it depends on the offense, and obviously the more repeated it is, the bigger the issue. But your fines range from 5,000 dirhams to 2 million dirhams. You can have confiscation of products, especially if it deals with unsafe or continuous defective items. Because remember, if there are constant complaints that are being made against the same store
Yeah.
that are similar, then there is a bit of a trend there. You can have a closure of your business either temporarily or permanently, depending on the offense level. There's mandatory corrective advertising. So if you are placing false advertising and that's been realized, then you will have some mandatory order demanding that. Compensation to consumers, that's usually a regular. And like I was saying before, there can be referral to criminal liability for serious offenses, especially when it deals with consumer safety.
Okay. And service-based transaction as well. I know you mentioned this, but just to kind of reiterate, 'cause I think this is very important, I mean, that we don't associate with consumer protection laws, but things like gyms, salons, maintenance companies, they are also covered under these fairly comprehensive consumer protection laws.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one of the things that I think we often forget about. We often think about it about the physical goods,
Yeah.
but it covers all things that are services, and that could mean anything from obtaining a service like a home cleaning, a haircut, um, uh, gym contracts, and things that sort of are subscription based that do an auto renew. That often falls under the false advertising. If that auto renew isn't clearly mentioned, if there's an often thing that occurs where there's a free trial, and it's not said that after that free trial you will be charged X amount. If that's not being clearly stated, then those all fall under the items of false advertising.
What if it's not easy to turn off the auto renew? Because I've had a couple of accounts with some online vendors, and getting out of the thing you signed up for to when you finally go through all the pages and get there, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, it has to be just as clear as the real world, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It has to be stated to you at the outset that this free trial will last X amount of days, months, whatever, and that after that you will be charged X amount. They don't necessarily have to give you a warning if they've already said that at the outset, but obviously being able to unsubscribe before that free trial ends has to be clear, and you should be able to do it. If you can't do it, then there is a problem there.
Yeah, okay. And if you don't like your haircut, you can complain about a haircut, because I'm thinking this is just the cogs are whirring. You probably hear the cogs in my brain whirring.
A defective haircut.
Thinking,
There you go.
Yeah, defective haircut. And I'm gonna be like, I wasn't this bald when I came into your hairdressing salon, my friend. But it's incumbent on us as well, isn't it, to be reasonable? And I think that's where I was going with that.
Well, the thing as well that doesn't often get realized is that it's specifically with services, is that if the service that is being provided has fundamentally changed over the course of time. So if it's a gym membership and you've had it and it's renewing, but that service that you're being provided has fundamentally changed, and you have a right to be able to cancel it.
Oh, okay. So when you say fundamental change, what do you mean? Do you mean that, I don't know, equipment hasn't been updated, broken equipment hasn't been mended? What kinds of things would mean?
Yeah.
fundamental?
So I mean, if you started out with having a specific level of expectation that has been provided, and then that has deteriorated over time. If they started out with let's say a 2,000 square foot gym and it's been reduced down to 500 square feet, but they're still charging you the same amount. As you say, equipment is no longer working. Then all of those would be considered, quote unquote, a material change. Again, it's the same sort of principle that we started out with. If you didn't get the service you paid for, you're protected just like if you're purchasing a defective product.
Okay. I always love talking to you, Raymond. I feel like I learn when you're here, and I appreciate it. Consumer issues, you can always contact the Ministry of Economy, 800-1222, or there is the app, of course. Raymond Kisswany is a partner at Davidson Co, and I thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Good to see you. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.